we have another bizarre collection of all that's weird and mysterious in this world.
So join us as we attempt to solve some of those cases that baffle, intrigue and confound all of us.
What mysterious goings-on occur when you enter that twilight zone of sleep?
We discover what lurks in the depths of one of the most haunted theatres in the country, and this one will scare you.
Could this be proof that living dinosaurs still roam the earth?
It's a mystery why clocks run backwards, the lights flicker, and ghostly footsteps echo around the Theatre Royal in Margate.
Is this the most haunted theatre in Britain? Whether or not you believe in ghosts, you cannot deny that there have been some very strange and mysterious goings-on in here. A year ago, another TV programme was being recorded on this very stage. Whilst the cameras were running, without any explanation, suddenly the lights started to flicker on and off. There was a lull in the proceedings as shivers engulfed the spines of cast and crew. No one could ever ascertain what had actually happened. The electricians were foxed. No one can say whether it was just a power surge or whether some other more spooky phenomenon had occurred. At the side of the stage, out of the spotlight's beams, is the secluded prompt corner with an ordinary clock on the wall. But at the Theatre Royal, the clock does some very extraordinary things. Occasionally, when no one expects it, something bizarre happens. One evening, Fred Hudson, who is one of the caretakers here, was going about his normal business. He looked up at the clock, and time went back. Some say it could be a faulty clock, but Fred is reported to have said that it doesn't matter what type of clock you put in prompt corner, it will always play up. On another occasion, Fred the caretaker went up to the room at the back of the theatre. He stayed there overnight, keeping an eye on a paranormal group who had decided to stay in the theatre to see if it was haunted. Fred was in a deep sleep when suddenly he was woken up by some whispering. As Fred got up to walk away, he also heard the strange sound of distant footsteps. The group recorded these same footsteps on their tape recorder.
So what do you think? Are the theatre's lights simply wired to a dodgy fuse? Is the clock just an unreliable old timepiece? Was Fred the caretaker just having a nightmare? Or is this the most haunted theatre in Britain?
Tim Froome, the theatre technician, thinks it is.
One morning, I was having a cup of tea with Fred the caretaker at the front of the theatre. And at that particular time, we was expecting an actor and a technician to come in for a show, for our very first show. So I left him at the front and I came through to the back, went through the back door, up the steps. And I see, at the time, I thought was one of the actors or something, come the other way. It was a lady in a long dress with black hair, and she passed me on the stairs. And I said, "Morning!" And she didn't answer me. And when I'd looked round, when I got to the top of the stairs, she actually disappeared. The strange thing was, she was solid. And you couldn't put your hand through it. And I always thought a ghost you could put your hand through. But it wasn't until I got to the top of the stairs and looked over my shoulder, she just disappeared into thin air.
A couple of days later, Tim was still pondering. Who was the mysterious lady? On that morning, the doors had been locked, and the only other people who could have been in the building were the two who had come to sort out the lights, and it was neither of them. Tim gave a detailed description of the woman to his theatrical colleagues. He even had an artist's impression drawn up. It was then that Tim realised something very strange. Tim Froome was convinced that he had seen one of the Theatre Royal's first managers, the ghost of Sarah Thorne. So what do you think? Did Tim really see the ghost of Sarah Thorne, the former manager of the Theatre Royal? And is this one of the most haunted theatres in Britain? Well, the lights may flicker mysteriously, The clocks may move in strange ways, and there may be weird goings-on. But at the Theatre Royal Margate, the show must go on. It's a mystery why we sleep.
Just think about it. We spend about 8 hours a day sleeping, which means that when you're 10 years old, you'll have already spent over 3 years asleep.
And scientists say that we actually spend a third of our lives asleep. The mystery is, what are we doing in all that time? And why?
Well, for a start, everything slows down. Your pulse rate drops, your breathing slows, your temperature falls, your muscles relax, and you fall asleep. In fact, you go through 5 different stages of sleep. Now, after falling asleep, you slip into stage 1. You then fall deeper and deeper into stage 2, then deeper into stage 3, and then 4. Then it goes into reverse from 4 to 3 to 2 and 1. And at this point, something called REM sleep happens for about 15 minutes. Now, REM is a much lighter sleep. It's called REM, or REM, because your eyes rapidly dart about under the closed eyelids. Rapid eye movement. Now, I bet you think that you're doing nothing when you're asleep. Well, experts say that in a typical night's sleep, your body moves between 40 and 70 times.
So there you go. We now know what we get up to when we're in bed, but the mystery remains, why do we do it?
Well, I'd like to introduce you to Ollie from the It's a Mystery office. And he hasn't had enough sleep. In fact, we've kept him awake all yesterday, all through last night, and all of today. So how are you feeling, Ol?
Tired.
I think that's an understatement, isn't it? Now, we're going to set him some simple tasks to see how he copes. Now, first up, Ol, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some objects on this tray, and I'm going to cover them up and see how many you can remember. So you ready for this?
Right.
OK, here we go, the great reveal. There we go, and I'm going to give you 10 seconds to have a look at them. Just take them all in, scan them, and if you can, try and remember them. And I'm going to cover them up, and I'm going to take them away. And I'll tell you this now, there's not a cuddly toy on there, so see if you can remember what was there.
There was a little doll, a black doll with yellow hair.
Yeah.
There was a camera. There was definitely a camera.
You're slow. You're very slow.
There were 2 vases. No, it was more like a trophy and a vase.
Yeah, there was a small vase. Yeah. And what about the slice of strawberry cake?
Yeah, and it had a flag in it. It had a flag.
Yeah, and it surprised me you forgot that, because that's normally your favourite. Is it difficult?
It is, actually, yeah.
What's in there? What's up there at the moment? What can you see?
Not a lot, just the colour. The colours. I can see the colours, can't remember the object.
All right, let me put that there, and I want you to write some lines. I must go to bed earlier. Let's see how you do with a bit of motor coordination with your hand.
I can do capitals.
Why can't you do joined up writing at the moment?
Not when I'm this tired. Go to bed earlier.
So you couldn't even remember that? Is it difficult?
It is. Suddenly it went, suddenly.
OK, well, I think we've proved a point. These tasks we gave you all, were they difficult to do? Do you think they were more difficult to do because you haven't had any sleep?
Certainly were. Certainly when you think you've got to remember so much, yeah. It seems a bigger task than it is when you're tired.
And you can hardly string a sentence together, can you?
I don't think
He's been
I can,
mumbling
no.
all day. So you see, he's absolutely useless because he hasn't had enough sleep to recharge his batteries.
So next time you decide to go to bed early, it's a great idea, because then you won't be useless the next day.
My name is Owen Burnham. I'm 28 years old and I used to live in West Africa. On the 12th of June 1983, I found a sea monster washed up on the beach. I went over to have a look at it and I immediately realized that it was something completely strange and different to anything I'd ever seen before. It was about 15 feet long. It had 2 nostrils at the tip of the snout and 80 teeth which were white and sharp. Because of the smell of the creature and the fact that it was intact, I think it had probably been dead less than 24 hours. This is a drawing I made of the creature, which I later showed to wildlife experts in the UK. They suggested various identities for the animal, but unfortunately none of them ever matched what I'd seen. This has led me to the conclusion that it was either an animal completely unknown to science, or possibly a survivor from the age of the dinosaurs.
So what do you think it was that Owen saw on the beach that day? A completely new type of animal? Or could it really have been a kind of dinosaur? Well, you know, it's not as unlikely as you may think. New species of animal are being discovered every day, around 10,000 a year. And incredibly, some new discoveries do turn out to be animals previously thought to be extinct. For example, one of the most famous recent discoveries was the coelacanth, a large prehistoric fish thought to have been extinct for 64 million years. But what about Owen's creature? Well, we have shown his drawing to leading cryptozoologist Jonathan Downes. Jonathan, what do you think was on the beach?
Well, there are no records of there being any animals that looked like the animal that Owen saw living in the sea today. It certainly seems that it has more in common with creatures that lived at the time of the dinosaurs. And I think that it could be a descendant of a very, very primitive whale, perhaps like the animal Ambulocetus natans that lived 49 million years ago.
So is it like a kind of living dinosaur?
It's certainly a possibility.
Thanks, Jonathan. In fact, the sighting has puzzled cryptozoologists so much that Jonathan is trying to get a group of experts together to return with Owen to Africa to examine the buried remains of this very strange creature. Oh. It's a mystery to me why your toast always seems to land butter side down when you drop it. Is it chance? Is it just bad luck? Or are there bigger, more powerful forces at work?
Let's start with the toast test. Now, if you throw a piece of toast in the air and let it drop, you'll see that there seems to be a 50-50 chance which side it lands on. Sometimes it lands butter side up, and sometimes butter side down.
I hope you're going to clean that lot up. But of course, toast doesn't always fall from up there. It falls from the height of your table. Now, if you try it here, you will see that it virtually always lands butter side down. Let's just try it then. There we go. One. And yep. And let's just try one more. There it goes. You see, it always seems to land butter side down.
So why is this? Well, believe it or not, it's all to do with the size of the toast, the size of the table, and gravity.
You see, toast and tables are the size they are because they are convenient for our size. And we are the size we are because we have evolved like this over millions of years.
If toast was much bigger, it would be too difficult to deal with. And if your table was 10 feet high, you'd never be able to reach it.
And because the table is this height, the tumbling toast only has time to flip half a rotation before hitting the floor. So let's just try it again. There we go. Half a rotation.
So unless it gets a fluky bounce, it's guaranteed to land butter side down.
So there's your answer. It's all to do with the size of the toast, the size of the table, and the size of us.
It's a mystery who or what makes giant corn pictures.
Imagine this. You're lying in bed one morning sound asleep, and you wake to find your garden has changed. As if during the night, while you were asleep, something or someone has drawn strange shapes in the grass.
Well, that's exactly the sort of thing that happened to farmer John Scull in 1980, which started off the Great Crop Circle saga. And since then, farmers all over the country have been affected. They wake up to find that without any clues or disturbance, mysterious giant circles like these have suddenly appeared in their crops overnight. They're known as crop circles. They appear to have been made by parts of the crop being flattened. Over the last 15 years, since the 1980s, they've become more frequent, and the patterns also seem to be getting more complicated. With over 2,000 of these crop circles suddenly appearing every year, the mystery is, how do they get there?
Well, there are many theories. One of the most popular ideas is that these shapes are the work of an alien intelligence, perhaps the result of UFOs landing on the fields at night. One scientific theory suggests that these patterns are formed by swirling air, a bit like small tornadoes, which make the circular patterns as they touch down. And there's even one ludicrous suggestion that they could be made by hedgehogs rushing round and round.
However, many people would claim that all the circles are practical jokes or hoaxes made by different people who creep out and make them before sunrise. And we've actually got a hoaxer here today. So, how do you do it? How do you make a crop circle?
Well, we'd check the field during the day, and then we'd go out in the middle of the night with a piece of string and a pole and make them using it just like a giant compass.
So put the pole in the middle.
Put the pole in the ground, stretch the string out, and then walk around and make an outer circle, and then you tread it down on the inside.
So, in your opinion, are all crop circles hoaxes? Are they all made by humans?
Yeah, because I've got loads of friends that do it as well.
So there's no way that you think a crop circle could be made by a UFO?
No, they're all fakes.
So okay, that's the evidence from someone who firmly believes that all crop circles are made by humans. But what do you think? Could they really be made by aliens? Are they a result of freak tornadoes? Or are they simply man-made? Well, before you make your decision, there's one discovery that is hard for anyone to explain. Top scientists from the Crop Circle Research Centre have found that there are two types of crop circle. The difference is in the way the corn is bent flat. Now, all grass crops like wheat, barley and oats have nodes, like a knuckle, which is non-bendable. In some corn circles, the corn is bent either side of the node, just like this. Now, that's very easily done.
Yet in other crop circles, the bend is right on the node itself. The research scientists have found that it would be impossible for humans to do this by hand. Let's see, have a go. Now, if you try bending, even if I put my thumbnails in that node, there you go, it always, do another one, always bends either side.
Yeah.
And you can try this with any tall grasses.
I've tried it, I can't do it. Some scientists have suggested that the only reasonable explanation for the way that the corn has been bent right on the node in some crop circles is that the nodes themselves have been heated to an amazing 200 to 300 degrees for less than 0.003 of a second, causing the nodes to explode inside and then bend. So what could possibly do this to each and every stem of corn in the middle of the night? Now what do you think?
Well, that's another collection of strange mysteries. Some we've solved, and some remain unsolved.
So join us next time for another journey into the unknown.
But just before we go, here's one last mystery for you to solve.
A lady wanted to build a house in which all of the windows, in all of the rooms, on all of the sides of the house, faced south. The mystery is, how could she possibly do this?
Can you work it out? We'll reveal the answer next time.
The answer to last week's final mystery is that the two dead bodies found on a living room carpet with broken glass lying around them were goldfish. Their bowl had been knocked to the floor.